13 years ago.
All right.
And she went to a great deal of trouble to get my number and to locate and telephone.
Yes.
And I am not sure what the purpose is.
So?
And I felt it was a cry for help.
All right, and so?
So
Can you be of assistance?
That's what I'm wondering.
Wondering?
Yes, I thought I don't quite understand what it is she wants.
Well, have you discussed it?
Yes.
Nothing comes out that you can term a specific idea?
Things came out that I would have thought would have been a great problem to her. She's been not out of the house for 5 years, and she expresses a great deal of fear.
All right. Perhaps some of the greatest assistance you can perhaps give to this individual is a lack of ambiguity. Be firm about the things that represent to you your point of view about the lifestyle you prefer, what makes you happy, the things that you prefer to do. Simply act as a mirror, as a reflection for ideas that the other individual could incorporate into her life if she chooses to. Doesn't mean she has to. But if someone reaches out to you, then they are reaching out to who you are. So be fully who you are. It doesn't even mean that you have to, quote unquote, specifically help them in any particular way. There does not have to be a particular methodology that you should be good at just because they found you. Being yourself is the methodology that is required to help them best. So when someone is looking for an answer from you, the only real answer you can give them is simply who you are. You can suggest, well, if what you say is happening to you were happening to me, this is what I think it would represent. This is what I would choose to do about it. This is how I would choose to transform it. But that's me. Now, you are you. You can tell this person. And if I have been of some assistance in illuminating who you are by telling you who I am and what I would do, then I am very happy to have been of help. But I can only be of help by being who I am. I cannot be you. So I will assume that whether it appears apparent on the surface yet or not, who I am, because you found me and we found each other, somehow does make a difference in who you will now consider yourself to be from this moment forward, and that will have given you whatever it is you needed, even if I don't know what it is you needed.
I see.
Understand? You don't have to have conscious analytical awareness of exactly what a person needs in order to help them in the way they need to be helped. Just by being who you are in interaction with them will be what they need.
Just let it flow however it flows.
Yes. As long as you know you are being loving, using your integrity, and simply suggesting to them options and points of view. Not saying you ought to do this and you better do that, but simply that this is who you are, this is what you would do. This is what would allow you to feel complete within yourself, integral within yourself, if you were in their, as you say, shoes. And then allow them to extract from what you have shared with them, what they need out of it. For you cannot tell them what they need. Only they can tell themselves what they need out of what they got from you.
I see. She might not even know herself.
She may not know herself at this point.
I couldn't seem to extract or find out exactly what it was.
You do not necessarily need to. Just be the fullest you can be, and that individual will get what they need out of having contacted you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for being so helpful. Sharing.
Good evening, Bashar.
And good day and good New Year to you.
Same to you and yours.
Thank you.
And everyone here. I'm here visiting California with a very dear friend, and my husband and I are here, and also thinking of relocating to physical conditions that he has. However, I'm very nervous about it because I hear about all the earthquakes in California.
Shaky situation.
Very. And it concerns me a great deal because he likes it here and I love it.
May I ask you a personal question?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. When you feel within yourself the idea that you really, really fit, that you really belong, that you really like it where you are, that you're really drawn and really attracted to a particular location, don't you assume that there's probably a good reason for that?
Oh, yes.
Then why not simply trust that whatever that reason is fits into the understanding of your positive growth potential rather than the idea of forming an interruption or a destructive idea in your life?
That makes sense.
It's again a matter of where you place your trust.
But what about all the predictions that between February and April,
Yes.
California's going to go into the ocean?
Will you answer another question for me?
Yes.
How many of those predictions have there been?
Many.
And how many have happened?
None.
Thank you. Now, this does not mean that an occurrence cannot come to pass, but recognize once again the idea, the issue of vibration. First of all, we do not perceive that what you call your California area is going to wind up in the ocean. There may be some release of energy in what you might call tremor fashion, but it does not even have to be as large as many of you think. It can be released in many ways. Remember that your energy, your consciousness, is reflected in the physical reality in which you exist. And if individuals need to be shaken awake, they will be. But if they wake up first, they don't have to be. The idea is that the energy can be translated or transformed in other ways. But also, even if an area does have the collective energy that says it is going to experience that type of physiological manifestation, if you are not of that vibration, then you will not experience it in a negative way, because it simply doesn't fit in your life in a negative way. So if you are attracted and are drawn to a particular area, and you hear all these things that seem to be negative ideas about the area, assume that it is an opportunity for you to weigh and balance the definitions you have within yourself and decide which you are going to trust more, the voice within yourself or the voices outside you. Which is more truly representative of the reality you will personally experience regardless of what anyone else around you experiences. For remember, anyone who is not of the vibration of a particular idea cannot experience that reality, even if they are standing in the midst of it. It may happen all around them, but nothing will touch them in a negative way. If it is going to happen in a negative way for an area, and an individual does not belong there, then circumstances in your life will automatically, effortlessly arrange themselves to take you out of the area, whether you plan to be out or not. So once again, you don't have to worry about it. In fact, paradoxically, it is the worry and the fear and the concern that would be more likely to attract you into the negative manifestation, because that's the negative vibration, fear and worry. And that adheres you to negative manifestations of consciousness. If you simply take all this information, as you say, with a grain of salt, and you simply say, well, all right, obviously I'm being given an opportunity to examine, to explore something here. What do I really believe when it comes down to assessing all the information, as you say, all the data that I am getting? What do I really believe? Well, there must be a reason for the attraction. I trust, I know I am moving in positive directions that are always expanding in exactly the way I need to expand. And that I would not have an attraction to a particular area if it did not serve me in a positive way. You can trust that. You can go off of that. And then everything else will arrange itself. All the details will fall into place automatically. And if you simply know you do not need to experience the negative side of such a manifestation, it won't be there. Even if you experience it, quote unquote, you will experience it from the level, from the frequency, from the point of view that is of who you are. And therefore it will not be a negative experience for you. Understand?
Yes.
Does this assist you?
It does very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sharing.
Bashar, hello, Happy New Year.
Good day, good New Year to you.
About a year ago, I came to you and asked you if there was anything you could suggest to help me cover the hills with wildflowers, because last year there were hardly any, and the year before they were so beautiful that I missed them.
All right, and what did you do?
Well, I did what you suggested. I went up on the hill and did some meditation and saw the wildflowers in my mind, and it seems like we've had one of the most ideal years that I've ever seen for making wildflowers. Lots
Well,
of sun
thank you
and
for
lots of rain.
creating that.
Thank you for giving me the suggestion. So that's a bright spot in my life, and a little dark spot in my life is that...
Bright spot, dark spot. Is all the rest sort of gray?
Well, no, it's
No,
pretty...
all right.
Is anger.
Anger.
And yes,
Oh.
there's been quite a bit of anger sort of popping off in my life lately.
Oh, all right. How does it serve you?
Well,
Can you use it in a positive way? You do remember what the positive definition of anger is, yes?
at this particular point in time, I don't remember now.
It is alignment. Alignment with what you know to be true as compared to something you're seeing in another reality. Just alignment. Comparative alignment. Understand? It is a rush of knowingness. I am not that, I am this.
And what about anger from the other side?
That is judgment and invalidation. That's when you start projecting around you to other individuals what you think they ought to be, rather than allowing yourself to understand that you are the creator of your reality, and whatever it is you really desire to experience will be all that you experience when you are centered within yourself. Then you will also understand that no matter what anyone else around you does, it cannot touch you in a negative way if you don't buy into it. The idea of negative anger is the belief that someone else can affect your life against your will, and it can't happen that way.
That's what I'm experiencing.
Oh,
With it. I sense myself it just evens out.
Yes.
And the more, it seems like the more it's projected at me, the more it just sort of evens out. It's really...
Yes. So you are learning and you are assimilating what you need to in that sense. You are learning to blend the definitions and balance them in a positive way.
That's great.
Now, the sooner you allow yourself to understand that it basically comes from you, in terms of your ability to experience the energy that way, in a seemingly negative way, then the sooner you can allow yourself to create only a positive experience of any interaction which generates that energy. Remember, no situation has built-in meaning. All situations are fundamentally empty of meaning, blank, neutral. They are props. You give them meaning. The meaning you give them determines the effect you get out of it. So if you give a situation a negative meaning, you will embroil yourself within the negative energy of that event and become as that energy. If you give it a positive meaning, you will be intertwined with the energy of that event and get that meaning and that effect out of it, a positive one.
So the positive energy that I'm looking for when I get into the obsessive thinking about the anger is the alignment. Is that
Yes,
what you're
in a
saying?
sense. But first, perhaps it would be of assistance to simply start in what you call the neutral fashion. It may be of assistance to simply look at a situation as simply a situation, and that's it. Just a situation. That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a situation. This person is there. This person is there. Now, they may have their own meanings, and you may sense those meanings. You may pick up on those meanings and think they're your own. Understand?
I do have a tendency to do that,
All right.
yes.
Just look at it as a neutral situation first. This does not mean you have to become cold and detached in that sense. But the idea is that you can simply regard the circumstance as neutral to begin with, as if the curtain has gone up on Act 1 of a play. You see the characters standing on the stage, but you don't know who they are yet. You don't know what they're all about yet. They haven't said anything yet. Every event can be seen from just such a point of view, as if it is the beginning of something no matter what you think they are saying, no matter how far along they seem to be, look at it as if it is the moment of the curtain going up. Everything is neutral. You don't really know why that person is saying what they're saying. You don't really know why that person is reacting the way they're reacting. You don't really know the story yet. Now, you may have a built-in sense of whether one individual is using integrity and another is not. You may be able to pick that up, as you say, telepathically. But just because you pick that up, you do not have to allow that to color your assessment of what it is they are learning. Understand?
What it is they are learning.
Yes, and what it is you are learning. You don't have to invalidate the idea. You do not necessarily have to label everything so strongly right away. Allow yourself to truly perceive all sides of what is going on. See it in that neutral light. Well, all right, this person said this person reacted that way. Now, on the surface, that seems to be a very negative thing. But what if the person was coming from this point of view? Then would what they have said be so negative? Maybe, maybe not. Allow yourself the opportunity to recognize that even though you may empathically feel what is going on, that does not necessarily mean you have to structurize it or rigidize it with labels, because it can change. Even if what you perceive is accurate, it can change. Labeling it so strongly keeps it from changing. You freeze frame it, as you say, by applying labels to everything.
Yes, I know. I sense that, and I get when I get into the obsessive thinking, I back off.
So, allow yourself to not be so prone, shall we say, to labeling that this person by doing this means exactly that. That this person by reacting this way means they are exactly this. Let it become a little more diffused for a moment. Start playing with different definitions a situation could be. Sometimes even some of the most interesting, shall we say, and exciting recognitions can come from absolutely taking what you have labeled them with and reversing those labels and see if it still makes sense. Because sometimes it will.
Okay,
Understand?
I'll do that. Yes, I will.
Play around with it and simply remember, no situation has built-in meaning. The meaning you give it determines the effect you get out of it in your participation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bashar.
Sharing.
Hello, Bashar.
And good day and good new year to you.
Good year to you.
Thank you.
Well,
Ace.
I'm trying to, not trying. You don't like that.
Doesn't matter what I like. And it isn't that I do not like it. I simply usually remind individuals that trying is not the doing of the thing they want to do. It is the doing of trying.
Yes.
But because I do that does not mean that you have to watch every word. I do not mean to make you hesitate to speak freely. Whatever you have to say will come out just fine. Simply say it.
Thank you. It has to do with me moving to Sedona, I guess is one of my biggest questions. I've been told I should, or it would be nice for me to go to Sedona. So I went to Sedona a few days ago, and I feel very good there.
Oh, all right. And?
And I had an unusual experience in a church.
Yes, all right.
I don't usually like churches and things like that. So I was in this church, and I started crying.
Oh, all right. What a beautiful prayer.
Yeah. Was it a prayer?
Yes.
I didn't know.
It was a centering and an alignment with the idea of the energy of the area with all that is. It was a release of much old information.
Oh. That's interesting, because I was trying, I thought intellectually all that old information was gone, but I guess experientially it wasn't.
Now also understand, to some degree, it was also a recognitional release. The idea of, as you more often than not in your society, of coming home. Understand?
Yes.
It was a release in that sense, too. We don't mean to imply that you necessarily had, shall we say, tons and tons and tons of things to still process.
Yes.
But simply that you did the balancing and the releasing through the idea of the tears, and that simply implies that your balancing was done from a point of view that looks back to the past, in the sense of measuring how far you have come. So since the focus is simply backwards in that sense, to some degree, then it is simply the idea of old information, old issues. And now can be seen also to be right in the middle, right on the threshold of looking forward, as you say, to the recognition of the energies that you now know exist, that you always knew existed, but now you have given yourself the opportunity to really begin to feel experientially in your life. So it was, in that sense, a celebration. It was a releasing, it was a recognition, it was a homecoming, and it was also a statement of conviction to truly get on with some of the things now that you can get on with, that you have been waiting to do.
Yes, that's what it was for me.
Oh, all right.
I didn't realize it until you amplified it.
Well, to have a good time? Did you have a good time?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
I
thank
did.
you.
And I was feeling so very happy the next morning.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I don't even mind going home.
Oh, all right, very good. The neutrality of things, yes. And also recognizing that, in a sense, everywhere is home.
Yes, yes. So then I really realized I didn't have to consider whether I should move there or not move there, because there's some problems with me moving there.
Allow whatever represents the path of least resistance to make itself obvious in terms of how it is you manifest what you need.
The least resistance.
Yes.
What's easiest for me to do?
As long as it is in line with your integrity. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize that whatever you really need to do that is really representative of your excitement and your integrity will come to you as an obvious opportunity. And if it doesn't come in an obvious way, then in that sense you can take that as a sign that it doesn't necessarily represent the path of least resistance. Understand? So in other words, to use your own analogy, if it seems as if your visit there has accomplished what needed to be accomplished, and that the idea of actually moving there contains obstacles that you do not necessarily prefer in your life or need in your life, then the idea may have already been accomplished. You may have already moved there for a sufficient amount of time.
Oh, thank you.
Remember that a lot of you simply make the assumption that when you're told to go to a certain place, to move there, to live there, you think that that has to be for a certain duration in order to accomplish the fulfillment of that phrase. You can do it in a second.
Oh, I thought about that.
Oh, all right.
And I guess it is true, and I thank you
Thank you.
for being there. And for me, I thank myself for creating you. And I guess I really don't have to ask people questions.
Not really.
I guess.
You can discuss many things, or you can ask questions. You can always allow your curiosity to be expanded in that sense. And you can always accept the advice of others that you cherish in that way. But simply remember that, as you say on your planet, the bottom line is that it always comes down to you.
Yeah.
Whatever you decide to accept, that's the reality you experience. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sharing.
Happy New Year, Bashar.
And good day, Happy New Year, and good new season to you.
Thank you. I wanted to explore a little bit more what you talked about on Christmas Eve.
Oh, all right.
What you said was a loose translation, something called the Christmas story.
Yes.
About when
Christmas bells.
when the world spirit of Esasania,
Esasani. Yes.
incarnated for 3 days.
Yes.
And you slept for 3 days.
Yes.
As a world planet.
Well, not me. I was not there in this incarnational sense.
Okay, but Esasani did.
Yes.
And everyone, in a sense,
it wasn't exactly it was like a resurrection, too, because
Yes.
when everyone awoke, they lived a dream forever.
Yes, they were aware of each other.
Right.
They knew each other telepathically in unconditional love, and we have never slept since.
And so everyone who is reincarnated into that world
Yes.
shares in that.
Oh, absolutely, because that's the vibration of that world now.
Okay. So I was kind of wondering about when that kind of thing can happen for us.
That's up to you, isn't it? Now, we do perceive that the way your energy is going is that within what you call the next 30 of your years, you will have already laid all the foundations necessary for just such a reality, and that by the time comes along that you call 50 of your years, you will be fully living that idea.
Oh, good, because when I was listening to it, I thought, oh, that's going to take us eons and eons, and and I thought, I have to ask and see
But
what
you are
we could do.
accelerating, and remember what
Yeah.
acceleration means. As of, shall we say, perhaps 1,000 of your years ago, it may have taken eons. But as of now, it doesn't need to.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's your
Okay,
planet.
what could we do to accelerate a little more even?
By doing the thing it excites you
Do
the
the
most
most,
to do
right?
right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Remember, when you talk about making things happen faster, the way things happen faster is if you give them less time to happen in. So when you live in the present, you don't create as much time, and therefore there isn't as much time for everything to happen in. So it has to happen more quickly.
Great.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Remember that this is more than just philosophy. This is actually physics. Living in the moment means you do not create the same amount of experiential time that you do when you live in a segregated, focused manner of the idea of worrying about the future, regretting the past. You extend your timeline out when you bring into play all the different detailed, segregational focuses that you are used to looking at your reality in. When you live in the present, when now is the only experiential time there is, then you don't create as much time, so everything happens faster. Shirley!
Hi, I'm Sunny.
Oh,
and
all right.
I'm astrologer.
Oh,
and
all right.
I was very happy to hear you talk to the other man about sign Aries and,
That's the crystallization of
yes,
energy.
new
Yes,
beginnings
yes,
and
yes.
red and fire energy.
Yes.
Now, I would like to know why so many people have closed minds to astrology and only few have open.
Oh, all right. Do understand, of course, that in a sense this is quite obvious if you simply take time to examine the history of your society. The focus of your society has, because it has forgotten its connection to all that is, focused only on the physically material issues of life. This is one of the things we were addressing with our opening remarks about self-awareness, that most people do not understand that self-awareness cannot exist if all you are is simply a physically focused or created being. When a society such as yours creates such a strong focus on physicality, then it assumes that everything must exist only within that physicality, and that anything that is not, as you say, solid, tangible, that can be directly tasted, smelt, touched, felt, heard, seen with your physical senses, therefore does not exist. This attitude, therefore, is obviously responsible for the denial of the existence of anything that is not immediately apparent to the physical senses. Understand?
Yes.
So, now that your society is beginning to realize that it is more than just a physical expression, now you are becoming more sensitized as a whole society to the fact that consciousness itself creates reality, and that what you call the physiological universe, the stars, the planets, the space, the time, that all of these things are actually the product of your consciousness, and that what you see in the exteriorized reality is actually a reflection simply of your own consciousness back to you, a reflection of your self-awareness, of the style of your self-awareness in this particular physiological format. Other beings, other consciousnesses in other universes express the reflection back to themselves in different ways. So they experience different universes through their version of physical senses. But the one you experience has a degree of commonality to many beings because we share in a consensus reality, a telepathically reinforced agreement that we shall all experience the basic universe as a particular format, at least this particular universal reality. But now that you are awakening up to the fact that physical reality is actually created through your imagination, you are becoming more sensitized as a society to the idea that non-physicality is just as valid, that energy itself is just as solid as physical matter. It takes a little while for people that have been trained to only look at the physical to break away from that and include the non-physical energy as well, because a high degree of focus on the physical reality creates an ego structure that, if it is removed from the physical reality, panics, because it thinks the physical reality is the only place that exists, and if all of a sudden you start forcing the ego structure that has been physically focused to look at non-physical reality, it thinks it's dying, because it doesn't understand that non-physical reality is just as real as physical reality. That is the reluctance that you are experiencing in your society. Understand?
Yes.
Does that assist you?
Yes, it does.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, too. Thank you.
Shedding.
Hi, Bashar.
Oh, good day to you. Good New Year.
Happy and exciting New Year
Yes,
to you,
yes,
too.
yes, yes, yes.
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 Okay, something came up for me,
Oh, yes.
which was an old thought pattern.
Oh, all right.
And what's been happening?
One moment.
Okay.
One moment.
Yeah.
But since you are now a new you, it isn't really the same, not really the identical old thought pattern, because now you are a new you looking at it from a perspective you have never looked at it from before.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yes, I understand.
So recognize that there really is, even if it may seem subtle, there really is a difference between the thought pattern you are looking at now and the thought pattern as it actually existed back then.
Mm-hmm.
But do continue.
Okay. About 3.5 years ago,
Yes.
I had a really vivid dream, and what happened was a spaceship came down and picked me up, and they pulled me away from my friends who I was with,
Yes.
pulled me into the spaceship, and they pinned me up to all these like computer-like machines that I had never seen before, and they pinned electrodes over my whole body.
Yes.
And they apologized to me as they were doing it, and they started giving me electric shock treatment.
Yes.
And as they were doing this, they said to me, "We apologize for doing this, but you're not moving as fast as you have agreed to move.
Yes.
So we have to do this to speed up your growth and
Yes.
your movement, okay?" So the next morning, two of my roommates told me that they had had a dream that a spaceship had come and picked me
Yes.
up.
Yes.
And then a week and a half later,
Yes.
I was shooting a film, and
Did it die?
no, but my physical body nearly did.
Oh, all right.
I was skydiving, and I wasn't a stunt person, and I landed in rocks, and I almost died. It was like...
Well, I'll bet that accelerated you.
Yeah. So what happened, like everything in both of my legs
Yes.
was, especially the right side, had 2 casts on, and my right foot was hanging off, and this leg was shattered.
Oh, all right.
And
That's breaking up those old belief systems.
yeah.
Those old foundations.
Yes, I
Now,
mean,
you didn't have to do it that way.
I know.
But you are very bold.
And yeah, I know. See, then in the hospital,
Yes.
I had another dream that
Yes.
space people came down and like lifted me up. I was in a lot of pain, and
Yes.
even the morphine didn't take the pain away. And so they lifted me up, and I felt this like white healing light
Yes.
through this glass cabinet like just surrounding me. And I was terrified because the doctors were telling me that I was going to be crippled, and I'm a dancer, and they told me that I might never walk again.
I see.
And stuff like this. And then
Yes.
I was in a depression, and I wouldn't talk to anyone. I wouldn't talk to the doctors. And then
Yes,
suddenly
you were reevaluating who and what you really were.
I made up my mind that I wasn't going to listen to the doctors, and I would
thank you.
change everything.
All right.
And that, and it continued for a long, long time, and I just kept on
Yes.
going. You know, I got out the cast, and I just, I got through the whole thing.
Conviction.
And
yes.
before I could even walk properly, I went into dance class.
Yes.
And I started dancing even when I couldn't walk. And through the dancing, I was able to heal myself.
Yes.
And the doctors would still tell me that I was going to be crippled, and that I was crippled and that I couldn't dance.
Well, they had made a big investment in that reality, you know.
That one of the things that's coming up now is because I'm still involved in litigation. It's 3.5 years later, and the pain is still there. And
all right.
it's like the pain actually has got worse, but I mean, I run, and I can't run like a runner.
All right.
But it's like it's coming up for me again.
Yes. Stop.
Uh-huh.
Now, it is not coming up again. It is completely newly created.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, because you are placing yourself in circumstances which, by definition, involve conflict. You know who you are and who you desire to be.
Mm-hmm.
They believe they know who they are and who they desire to be. All the circumstances that you have experienced, you have created to get you to the understandings you have now, to the recognitions you have now, to the clarity of the issues and the definitions within you that you are now beginning to discover. A suggestion, just on a lifestyle level, would be to ask you first of all, can you let the past circumstance go? Can you let the circumstance that brought you to where you are be a part of the life that was necessary, that you at that time obviously believed was necessary to get you to where you are now? Can you, in that sense, not blame those circumstances on anyone?
I don't blame anybody for anything.
May I ask you why you are, in your terms, in litigation?
Because,
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
I guess because because
Yes.
I was in a lot of physical pain, and that's how this
Yes.
world works. And
Whose world? Whose world? What kind of a world do you prefer it to be? I understand, before you go on, let me explain. I understand this may seem hard for you.
The money could never fix the physical pain.
Well then, do you need it?
Oh, I see. You're helping me to let go.
Yes.
I see.
You see, many times, holding on to the circumstances that brought you to where you are, now there can be differences. It doesn't have to happen this way across the board, as you say. Not all situations are going to be the same. But what we are perceiving now within you is that holding on to those circumstances is what creates you to remain at the place you're at. Because in a sense you have a vested interest in maintaining the pain. Because if you don't maintain the pain, who can you blame in the litigation? Well, Your Honor, I'm just fine. Well, then what's this all about? Understand?
Yeah, I understand. However,
Yes.
I did this because this there was a workman's compensation part to this.
It does not matter what kind of
this.
definitions you put on these ideas. Again, the idea can be shown. And we do not mean to refute that some of the avenues your world has set up do not work for some individuals. But for what you are going for what you are shooting for, the idea of compensation is not the full expression of who you want to be. You are, in that sense, compensating. You are wanting to be compensated externally rather than internally. The idea is to understand that if you no longer need to hold on to the idea of pain to convince someone that you should be compensated, then the pain will serve no purpose for you, and it will go away. It will transform more into the energy of your acceleration forward. It will move you forward faster and give you the ability to move forward faster, which will translate in more mobility, physically, more physical expression. But if you need to hold on to the pain because that is your best defense, then that will stay there for you. So, our suggestion, we cannot tell you what to do. But in terms of describing what we perceive to be the mechanics of your circumstance, our suggestion would be to let go of the litigation. Because you have a vested interest in maintaining disability in order to be compensated by someone else. Once you understand that the full expression of yourself will supply you with whatever abundance you need, then you can move forward, you will be supplied with whatever abundance you need, and you will not have to hang on to the issue of being compensated by someone else for circumstances that you attracted in your life to get you where you are now, to realize the very thing we are talking about.
I just want to share
Go
with
ahead,
people.
and then we will talk about something else.
Okay. I want to share with everyone that there was almost immediately an internal compensation.
Yes.
The feeling of the clarity and the light
Yes.
that has come from this.
Well, yes. Well, walking through what you call the door of death, the door of transformation, is a very accelerating and clarifying process, and one that really allows you to live in the moment. Because if you won't live in the moment any other way, sometimes you will force yourself into circumstances like that, because then you absolutely guarantee beyond a shadow of a doubt that you'll be living in the moment.
Yeah. And
That is why the entire perception and the entire phrase of your life flashing before your eyes came up. Because you are so, at that moment, fully living in the present that your entire life is actually existent in that one moment. Because there is no other time for your life to exist in, but right here, right now. That's why that phenomena happens. You become absolutely holographic at that moment. So of course you're going to be left with a residual clarity. When you reconnect into the time frame, you will not reconnect in the same manner unless you choose to hold on to some of the old patterns, as you are suggesting you are doing. Now,
well, the main purpose for this conversation is that what I'm coming up against right now is...
Against? More conflict?
Yes.
All right.
It seems like I've always had a lot of trouble being grounded and being earthed. I tend to prefer to be in the spiritual realms.
Oh, I understand exactly what you are saying.
My boyfriend
Yes.
is very grounded, and he has been a teacher, and he
Well, all
mirrors
right.
back to me
All right.
sometimes why I'm not getting to do what I
Then
want
you are
to do.
serving each other in that way.
And he mentioned at the weekend that I'm missing some of the stepping stones of the earth.
You're not really
And-
missing the stepping stones, but you are not allowing yourself to see what is there. You have them, but you don't see them. The first and most obvious one is that obviously you chose to be born on earth. Therefore, since you now know that that was an actual conscious choice, you can also see that your preference to the idea of spirituality is to some degree balanced by your preference to be born physically on earth. So that in that sense, you did choose to be grounded in that way. And see the idea of spirituality through those eyes, through that perspective. So you can start to look at it from that direction to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to think of yourself as groundless.
Was that the reason why I landed in the rocks?
To some degree. To some degree. The idea also can be to recognize and remember that you are still making, perhaps because of a belief system that you were taught, you're still making a differentiation between physical and spiritual reality as if they really are two completely different things that have nothing to do with each other. Physical reality is just as spiritual as any level of reality because it is made of spirit. Remember that your spirit does not actually inhabit, mechanically speaking, your physical body. Your physical body is your spirit in physical terminology. So, being physical doesn't mean you're not spiritual.
All right, I understand. I've been...
All right. Then allow yourself to begin with to soften the definition that there is a major difference between being physical and exploring spirituality. Because there really isn't as much of a difference as you think or have been taught to think.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you may find that when you remove that definitional difference, more things in physiological nature will seem more spiritual to you and will entice you in a spiritual way to become involved with nature more closely, and that will automatically balance and ground you. Because you will start to see physical reality as just as spiritual as anything. And paradoxically, when you accelerate through your point of view physical reality to be more spiritual, then you exist in a reality that is vibrationally closer to the type of levels of spirituality you say you actually prefer. And it makes it easier to experience both types. Because the whole idea is to meet it halfway, not to leave where you obviously chose to be and vacate the premises because you chose to be where you are for a reason. And one of the main reasons that all of you have chosen, especially now in this transformational life, is to accelerate and uplift the vibration of physical reality so that you understand physical reality is one of the spiritual levels. Allow that reality to be more like the non-physical spiritual levels. And then blend the two so that there really isn't as much of a difference. That's the whole purpose. It's not the idea of running away from earth to seek heaven. It's the idea of creating heaven on earth. Mm-hmm. That's why you're all choosing to be born physically on earth. But you always, as you have already suggested, attract whatever balancing ideas you need, such as your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that you do know what you're doing. Don't focus on the negative ideas of what you think you're looking for. Where you are is what you need to learn about yourself and what can represent a place of peace. Even if you don't prefer it, where you are, exploring where you are, will give you the information you need. Now, aside from the whole issue of just letting go of past ideas that would allow you to hold on to the pain, you can also assist yourself through what you may call a meditation. The one that we have shared that is called the blue-white light technique.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
Infuse yourself with a blue jelly-like substance in the areas of greatest pain. Feel that that blue jelly-like substance actually acts as a lubricant for all of your hard bones and connective areas, and as a sheath for all of your nerve areas, so that the entire interaction is synergistic, is one environment enveloped in the blue gel. Feel it infuse itself into every cell where you have pain, and allow it to dissolve. and stop thinking in terms of structures, of separate parts. Think as a whole, a fluid whole, and relax. Does this assist you?
Yes, it does. Can I ask one little? No?
Yes. Yes, yes.
My boyfriend, I was supposed to ask, he has problems when he's driving. He gets dizzy and like blacks out, and I wanted to ask if you could assist me in the reason why this was happening.
What we can suggest is that you use the technique, if you wish, center and balance yourself. When you are in that state, before you go into what you call dream time, sleep time, focus on the idea of the strong magnetic energy of your boyfriend. See the idea of the black hole, the central vortex of magnetism, and allow yourself telepathically to remind him that a black hole, a blackness, a void, or what appears to be a void, is not empty and actually contains 99% of all reality. That there is light within the blackness. Send that as you are in a balanced state 3 nights in a row. See if that begins to allow him to relax enough to receive assistance from his guides. For they can be of best help more than we can.
Okay.
And so can you.
Okay.
We thank you and we send you and remind you our unconditional love. And unconditional love is all that it takes to be anywhere and anyone you wish to be. All right?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for the sharing of your heart, and you may all take a short break.